chairman of the committee.
All right, let me take this tweet from Frederick, who wrote, "The shame of a Nigerian senator. Bullying women is now their stock in trade." A senator bullying former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, during a public hearing. The suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti did not do as much as this. Under Akpabio, this bully, called Senator Nwaboying, will neither be disciplined nor suspended unless he accuses Akpabio of sexual harassment. Let us see how Akpabio's Senate will handle this national shame. Well, Nwaboying, who was on our nightly news program Newsnight to address the sexual harassment petition submitted by Natasha Akpoti and the altercation that ensued at the Senate committee, said that he regrets his statements he made against the former minister, but called for disciplinary actions to be taken against her. Let's take a look.
Respect is earned. She has no right to talk to me. And to talk to me in that way, for me to shut up my mouth, it means that she's not mature.
Okay.
She got to her level by accident. She has admitted publicly, and having done so, I commend her. And I must tell you, I regret my choice of words to her.
That's
because
fantastic.
she's old enough to be my mother.
Great.
She's old enough to be my mother.
And
but like I said,
yeah.
it is her action that brought up my reaction. But having admitted publicly that she said so, I give it to her.
Some Nigerians are asking for disciplinary action against you based on, today's...
Based on what?
Yes.
Based on what? They should first ask for disciplinary action against Ezekwesili for asking me to shut up my mouth.
All right.
For saying that I'm a disgrace to the Senate. Let them discipline her first.
All right, let me take this tweet from EJ, who wrote, "The senator's conduct, as documented in multiple video recordings, is unacceptable and unprofessional. His actions are strongly condemned. No senator should behave in such a manner. Senator Nwaboying should learn to control his emotions. It's good that he is withdrawing those words. He should never use such words on anyone again." Similarly, Madam Obi Ezekwesili's response is also unacceptable. Instructing a senator to shut up is inappropriate in a professional environment. Both of them exhibited unacceptable behaviors, period. She is a former minister and he is a sitting senator. They should behave responsibly. Well, let's take Obi Ezekwesili's account of the incident. She spoke with Charles Anyagolu on Arise Primetime, and she admitted to telling Senator Nwaboying to please shut up, but insisted that the senator was initially provoked before the altercation ensued. Let's take a look.
And then this senator, whom I will not acknowledge by mentioning his name at all.
Well, his name is Senator Nwaboying.
That's okay. But, he then said, well, if they're not serious about giving any testimony, I am here representing the Senate President as a respondent, and that I am prepared to speak because, we can't continue with this. So I said to him, can you please shut up? Because, we were just told that we couldn't speak, and you have been speaking without any form of an equivalent treatment.
So let me just get this. You said to him to shut his mouth.
Yes.
And that was what provoked the senator.
He was already provoked.
Right.
He was already provoked because he spoke.
But he went from being a spark of a tinder box into a roaring flame.
Precisely. So he was already provoked by the fact that he felt we were not serious. In fact, part of what inflamed it was that the petitioner then said, oh, by the way, it is this senator that made a lot of statements about my senator and in words that were not complimentary.
All right, Obi Ezekwesili here saying that Senator Nwaboying was already provoked before the altercation ensued. I'd like your thoughts on all of the
Okay, I'll go about it this way. See, there's something I see here about the Nigerian character. There's something about this pressure cooker life that we live in this country, and it gets worse from one administration to the other, that people find it very difficult to have very decent conversation.
Yes.
Now, all the traits of the Nigerian, character were on display in that, altercation. First, the the senator was saying, I'm a senator of the Federal Republic. Okay, you know, everybody is busy with, do you know who I am?
Yes.
Do you know who I am? We have this sense of importance. And then before you know it, the conversation will degenerate to name calling. One party calls the other hooligan. Shut up. The other one says you are a disgrace. The other one says you are a disgrace too. That that altercation should not have taken place on the floor or within the premises of the National Assembly. So I think it looks ugly. It speaks to the way we behave as Nigerians. If you were talking to foreigners and you talk like this, they will be afraid. They will think that you just left the zoo. Anyway, the second thing is to know that two fighting or affray or altercation is an offense. It's a felony under Section 84 of the Criminal Code. No, you are not allowed to fight in a public space or to, quarrel in such a manner that, you look like you want to take advantage of each other. However, there's something they call parliamentary privilege, which is the immunity that lawmakers and people who speak on the floor, under parliamentary proceedings enjoy. Number 3 is the point that, look, both are in the wrong. As the gentleman that you quoted, as the man you quoted, EJ, I think you quoted his tweet. Yes. He said that the senator was wrong. After all, we call senators distinguished people.
Exactly.
And a senator is supposed to conduct himself in a very responsible manner. Even if he was angry that he was called a hooligan and asked to shut up, there was a chairman of that meeting. He could have sought the protection of the chairman, and the chairman would have maybe asked, Mrs. Ezekisili to withdraw her statement.
Right.
And there will be some guy, but on his own he just jumped and took over the meeting, and then the thing degenerated. And Mrs. Ezekisili too, as an elderly person, shouldn't have, found herself in this kind of situation where you'll be talking to a senator that was born in 1982.
It was 1982. Okay.
He was born in 1982.
Quite young.
No, he was born in 1982.
Yes.
And he himself, we're Africans. And he himself was saying, Ezekisili.
Do you know who I am?
Ezekisili is an elderly person, a grandmother, and he was talking to her like that.
Come on,
the matter could have been handled
better
in a different manner.
Yes.
And finally, which is my final point on this matter, is that, look, there is a lot of distraction. Where is the National Assembly, the Senate, going to find time now to do the work for which Nigerians have voted for them? Since March, we have not discussed any other thing. It is this Senator Akpoti Udua's matter affecting other matters, dragging in other people in this matter. I hope that we will get through this as quickly as possible, and that Senate will return to serious lawmaking, which is his primary responsibility.
All right.
But it looks ugly, both to Nigerians watching it and also to the international community. Right. They asked Mrs. Ezekisili to go on oath.
Right.
I think that was what she said caused the matter, and she said she could not go on oath. Now, I don't know whether it's a standing order that you go on oath before you serve as a witness, before your matter can be adopted. So there are many gray areas in this particular matter.
Right,
but please, we want more seriousness coming from the Senate.
Well said, Dr. I just wanted to raise it. I mean, should the Committee for Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, address this matter? I mean, this is a sitting senator. I'm not going to go on Obi Ezekisili because she's not within the Senate. It's a sitting senator. Behaving in such a manner, it was televised, it's all over social media. Should he face disciplinary action?
No, but if you file a petition, if there's a petition filed to his conduct, they should be able to respond.
I'd like for you to speak to that.
Okay,
and
so
his behavior.
See, both parties have blames to share here. But let me go to a background, because there is something before something. At first, those in defense of Natasha Akpoti Senator Natasha Akpoti had talked about bias of that committee. In fact, I hear there had been a court filing to debar the head of that committee, that Senator Imasuen, in the first place. Secondly, the case of oaths, there was a back and forth, and this was what Senator Obi claimed, because there are two sides to the story. I said Senator Obi, goodness me, because the senator said you can never be here, so maybe she can be here. Senator, you don't know. So what she claimed was that they had stopped their team, from speaking, and he, the senator, he said, if you people are not serious, we are ready to go ahead and take the oath. And then she interjected with that line, shut up, And he got infuriated and he said the following words, not my words. The full word, full at 70, smelly mouth, scandal, lots of words were going around, which was not good conduct by both parties. But I think the substantial matter we should talk about, Oji, is the fact that the real investigation by the Senate Ethics Committee should not be drowned in this side drama. We must get to the point where the Natasha team presents her own facts on the ground, and the Akpabio team also have their own facts on the ground, and we are able to weigh this so that we can get a reasonable conclusion.
Yes.
This drama is not necessary. I'm very sad that the first time that the Ethics Committee did sit down to hear this matter after a while, it is this drama we are taking out of it. The drama is not the substance of what happened. What happened is the fact that the Senator Natasha team is claiming bias on one side, and the Senate should be able to recuse itself if they claim bias against this committee, like they advise that a ad hoc committee should be set up. I think the Senate Committee on Ethics should recuse itself since initially a case of bias have been established against them. A free independent committee so that we can get to the end of this matter and we can get done with all of this.
All right. Aya, I'd like to come to you on Oby Ezekwesili and her response right there on, Arise Prime Time. And she did admit that she told the senator to please shut up. And obviously, we also heard her call him a scoundrel. And, I just wanted to, your thoughts on her behavior, her mannerism, and what's next? What would you like to see next happen?
All right, thank you so much. I thought it was a show of shame, especially a show of shame being televised. I have a lot of respect for Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, and whether or not she ever gets into the Senate, she has made her mark in history,
Absolutely.
whether as Vice President at the World Bank, a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, founding director, Transparency International, Fixed Politics, and so many others. She's served in government at different points, and to a very large extent, scandal-free. So she's earned her stars as a public servant in Nigeria and also even in the private sector. However, I do think that no one should ask anybody, especially in such a professional setting, to shut up. Yes, people can get provoked, but there are two adults on the table, irrespective of how old or what their resume was. They were before a panel to present or represent a matter, and unfortunately, that then degenerated. I think in terms of who should apologize, both of them owe each other and Nigerians an apology. Number one is that Dr. Oby Ezekwesili is a role model to a lot of young women, men, youths across Nigeria, and I don't think it's becoming to see this kind of behavior and to justify it. In the same vein, Senator Imasuen is also, well, he said he's a senator, so he all the respect, and he once served as chairman of a program of World Bank, so he himself is very important.
Yes.
But I do believe that in the interest of the fact that he is the one who was a senator within the chambers, within that parliamentary system, he ought to be disciplined.
Right.
And it's just to demonstrate a no tolerance for such behavior. If someone can be disciplined for speaking up against an allocation of seats, how much more someone who sat before and didn't even respect the fact that he had a chairman of the committee and used very strong language to speak against someone who was invited for a committee meeting. I say this because there's action and reaction. When an action is done, and I think it was Dr. Batu who mentioned it, that even if something was said to you that you didn't like, you didn't have to, Michelle Obama said, when they go high, when they go low, we go high. You could have easily just asked, this was, and then just quenched that matter. But he went off and he just went off. When you report a case of domestic violence and you say, what did the woman do? That question is very upsetting. Yes. But even beyond that, if you go to any law enforcement agency, it's the one that hits, that gets, that gets apprehended. Yes. So it's your reaction to such a statement that could have easily put you out of this system. Yeah. And I just want to say that I believe that public servants should have two trainings, important and compulsory. Anger management training and communication skills training. Right. We've seen this play out a number of times, and I believe that it's a disservice to the position and the office that they represent when they come out and they speak in such a manner. It is disgraceful, it is quite sad, and I hope the Senate takes it up.
Well said, and thank you all for your submission. I think that you all summed up the conversation really nicely. I mean, we're hoping for an apology, like you said, to Nigerians from both parties, Senator Nwaboyi, and of course, Madam Due Process. Oby Ezekwesili, we call her Madam Due Process. Oby Ezekwesili, we call her Madam Due Process. I hope she does right. Well, in the meantime, Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan has petitioned the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee to disbar Senator Neda Imasuen, chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, the senator who recommended her suspension. Well, in the petition, Natasha alleged that Imasuen was disbarred in the United States by the New York Supreme Court in 2010 over fraud and misappropriation of client funds. Natasha also claimed that Imasuen relocated to Nigeria to continue practicing law, but failed to disclose his disbarment in his INEC election forms. Natasha backed her petition with court documents. This comes after she filed a contempt application against Imasuen, arguing that her suspension violated a court order restraining the committee from taking disciplinary action against her. Well, meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission has dismissed a recall petition seeking to remove Senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti Uduaha. INEC cited the petitioner's failure to provide valid contact information as a reason for the rejection. Dr. Abati, I'm coming over to you on the story because we discussed it a bit yesterday, and I wanted you to just highlight the process of these sort of recall petition. And of course, the story I took earlier about Natasha taking Senator Imasuen to court.
Okay, let me deal with that of Senator Neda Imasuen first. It raises a moral question. And the moral question is that, look, if a person had been debarred somewhere, and then he goes into politics in Nigeria, it means that there is a stain on his character. That's a moral statement that you can make. Mm-hmm. But there's that old argument whether morality is the same thing with law. Now, the principle here is that if a man has already been punished for a particular offense, if you are asking for that person to be punished a second time, the principle in law is called double jeopardy. Mm-hmm. So if there is a case of double jeopardy, I'm not even too sure whether, the LDPC would go that far to say a person should be punished twice. There's also what they call the 10-year rule. I think it was in 2010 that that debarment at the New York Bar,
Supreme Court,
in the New York Bar, took place. Mm-hmm. Now, the 10-year rule says that if you've been, sanctioned for a particular offense, after 10 years, you are deemed to have been born anew.
But do you have to reapply? Don't you have to reapply before?
Well, I don't know. He didn't even show up.
Uh-huh.
I think the narrative that I read said he didn't even show up
right
at the appeal. The third question to ask is that, was he called to the bar here in Nigeria? Or where did he get his, is he a member of the Nigerian Bar Association? If he's not a member, can the NBA disciplinary committee inquire into the matter? Number 4 is the issue of vendetta. Mm-hmm. Very obviously, Senator Natasha Akpoti is seeking vengeance, and is thinking that he can use the legal disciplinary and privileges committee to have a way. Would that body go that way? However, the petition has been submitted. I will not go as far and say, oh, these are recommendations, this is how anybody should.
You're not doing any pro bono work.
No. That will even be prejudicial. It will be prejudicial
no advice.
To that disciplinary or committee. Okay. They know what the law is. They will look at the various dimensions. Mm-hmm. The second thing about the
recall.
The recall. Well, yesterday I was going to say that, look, this is a matter of law. It's not of emotions. Now, the INEC themselves, the body has come forward to say, look, this is in violation of the enabling rules, laws, section 110, and also 69 of the 1999 Constitution, 130 and 116 of the Electoral Act, Extant Act, and also section 2C of the Electoral Act, and section 2C and 1F of the INEC guidelines and regulations. Now, the procedure for filing, a petition for recall is well stated under section 69. 50% of the registered voters, total number of registered voters in that constituency, in this case, Kogi Central. Now, if those 50% supply their petition, the petition must contain telephone numbers, contact addresses, and even email addresses. Why? Because the second stage after the submission is verification. Because INEC will now carry its verification to make sure that the petition and the names that have been submitted are not fake.
Which has now happened. Right?
And that is what INEC is holding on to say that only the name, the phone number, contact number of the lead petitioner was supplied. That lead petitioner cannot represent over 50% of the registered voters in that constituency. She can only represent herself. So if they verify her, how about the other over 250,000 persons
Right.
that they said signed the petition. So on the surface of it, that petition has developed a K-leg. Because it's after verification, INEC will now conduct a referendum.
That's it.
A yes or no referendum in that constituency, and it's only on that basis that they can take a decision on recall, and all of that process must take place within 90 days.
Right.
That's what the law says. So INEC now is trying to be transparent to say these persons that have been submitted to us, these names, they cannot be ghosts. They must be actually registered voters who can be identified. So, in other words, that's why the recall process is a very cumbersome process. And that's why you don't find people being recalled on a daily basis.
Right.
And I think that INEC has done well by insisting on fairness and due process.
Kudos, INEC.